Greetings all, Ben here from East West, just having a look at uranium for this week, and obviously there's not a whole heap to talk about, right? We're kind of stuck here in the doldrums. We are not really going anywhere, and it's kind of that scenario where the downtrend's ended and we've come into this trading range. It seems to be solidifying, so we do have a building short-term trading range in most of the stocks that we are seeing. A few are poking their heads up, but generally speaking, obviously the way we finished today on Friday hasn't been very conducive to fresh prices next week. So why is that? I think a big part of it is probably down to when you think about it. I mean, look what the rest of the market's doing. There's a lot of shiny things going up very quickly out there. I mean, you just look at these three charts. Obviously on the left we've got Bitcoin and crypto in general, which is going berserk. Gold is, look at the rally in gold, and then look at CCJ on the right. So look, if you're a casual trader of whatever's moving, sort of tourist money, why would you be trading CCJ or any of the other uranium names when you've got all these other options out there that are, showing these explosive rallies and offering fantastic gains? I mean, some of the gains that you're seeing in the crypto space at the moment are, we're going back into full bull mode. So when the market's doing that, why would you be putting or deploying funds into uranium stocks? So I think that's probably playing its part as to why there's not any movement, why it's just staying quite soft. There'll be other reasons, of course, but I think that bears keep that in mind. The fact that there's so many other options out there at the moment that are way more attractive than playing in uranium. But with that being said, let's just have a look at the price action and see what's going on in there. So we'll try to go over a few names today. So we'll quickly just start here with NXE, and obviously last week we were looking at the fact that this one had a very strong break, and it looked like that perhaps it was going to respect this trend line. So I think in all the other stocks, I don't think this can exist in isolation forever. So my main view is that we're going to get this extended sort of trading range in the uranium space before we get another rally. So, the same thing applies, and I think we're going to see this. I don't know how long this is going to go on for, but I think we're going to get the same sort of sideways action where we're just going to whiz around inside a range like we did, sort of through here. I mean, this was a bigger trading range, but this sort of where we're not really going anywhere, we're going up and down, we're just sort of stuck. So I think after the 2023 rally, I'll just say the same thing again, I think that's what we're going to see here. That's sort of what I'm anticipating. But we'll have to wait and see on that. So when we just zip on here to the hourly, we had this little what looked like a decent sort of schematic in terms of an accumulation, even though it didn't go on that long. But obviously we had this big strong run away. This is probably another slightly smaller accumulation if you went in tighter, and then you could probably put this together as perhaps a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 waves up. And then of course we've had today this quite a big plunge, and obviously interesting with this as you take a look at that, where did it get to? Straight back to the old retracement zone and tapped in to test out this old top. So we have to see. So I'm kind of looking at this now going, okay, well, we've got a little bit of a trend line forming, even though we just sort of poked down here through wicks. We kind of got a little bit of an uptrend just coming in here. So we'll just see how this develops. But it does, you can kind of frame it up to make a bit of a trend channel going in here. So we'll just see. Obviously we don't want this to give way early next week, but we wait and see. We build. So if I was just sort of looking at this now, and if it was going to adhere to sort of the general idea of what I think is going to go on, just in the sense of a larger sort of schematic, I'd sort of be thinking, okay, well, the fact that we've come down so steeply here today, that I would sort of think, oh, okay, well, maybe that's going to be the automatic reaction. And what that's doing now is it's just kind of setting in, well, I wouldn't say, it's not set in stone, but we're just kind of now looking at, if we're going to have a trading range, we're just looking at the sort of top band of the trading range, whereas, sort of down here would be the sort of the lower band of the trading range. So in an ideal scenario, we might kind of be thinking about, this sort of thing playing out. But, that that's the ideal scenario. I think I said last week, and I'll reiterate, it's almost certainly not going to play out to the ideal scenario. It never does. This is just the general idea. So what we would really want to see is lots of this sort of sideways chop, and then one last attempt to break through the bottoms. And if we see that, and then a very quick rejection away, then we're on watch and act on the bigger picture, because from this point, this is when we start to really anticipate the next bull run beginning. So this is a common theme across the space. So that sort of is what I'm looking for overall, and I don't know how long it's going to go on. I don't even know if that's going to happen. I'm not predicting. I did look up. I did look up the difference between predicting and expectation. And predicting is when you're being very specific and precise and scientific about something. And expectation is just what you hope to see. So this is just what I hope to see. Will it happen? I don't know. But this is what I'd hope to see. In so much as if I see this, I'm kind of got a bit more of an idea of where I think I'm at in terms of the cycle, and thinking, okay, now we've tried this, we've pushed, we've failed. We're really ready to start going back up. So that's just what I'm anticipating might happen, and I'm on the lookout for signs that I might be right, or look on the lookout for signs I'm going to be wrong. So we'll just briefly touch on everyone's favourite punching bag energy fuels, and this is a little bit different because of the way it's structured. This is the only one that's different, but obviously we've had this pretty well defined downtrend, but I do note that this swing is. Even though it was bigger in magnitude than this swing, it was shorter in time. But however, we can't solidify that until we get another upswing in place, another pivot. But you can see here that we've got a bit of a range forming, and this is not necessarily a bad thing, because the way I'd read this is that when a trend finishes, this one was a bit different because this sort of uptrend finished, and we didn't really go into a trading range as much as we've gone into a time and price correction where we've just swung, but we've very clearly trended down. Now, so you would consider this to be overall a trend, and this looks like now it's kind of trying to go into a trading range to terminate that trend. So usually the way I look at it is trends will terminate in three ways. They go into a trading range, or well, look, they'll either go into a trading range, and then we'll either have a trend change or a trend continuation, or that's it. Or we will counter trend, which basically means that we will, that this would keep going and go all the way. So I don't think that's what's going on. But enough of that. I'm just looking at this and going, okay, so this looks like it's trying to establish a trading range now. So we kind of just looked at some of this action happening on the hour. I'll just clean this up a bit. It's just a little bit. There's a bit too much going on there. Table. So I think we can. This was the anticipated move. I think we can take that off now because that's sort of already happened. So it looks like now maybe we're just going to come down and we're just once again testing the bottom of this range. So ideally, I can probably even. You know what I mean? Like ideally, we would do something like this next week, and we would go back up. Maybe it takes longer than this, but we would go back up to test and maybe get into the top of this band before coming down one more time and trying to pop everybody out with a push below the low. That would be the general idea, but we don't have that. But so far, it looks like it's kind of doing its thing, right? It's just making this range, okay. Now we're on a very short-term chart here, but you got to be a bit wary that this is kind of, lower high. It is kind of doing that, and I wouldn't have said that you're really going to draw, this kind of trend in. It's not really doing that. It's more trying to make, a more solidified double, triple, quadruple bottom. But we're on an hourly, so that's how I just look at this and go, okay, well look. I'm probably not, unless I was pretty confident the market was going to hold, and with this one I would definitely not be confident. I would just think, okay, well look, this is kind of the range that it's kind of set. So it's about, for me at least, it would be about observing this and just seeing how it's going to hold, how it's going to react. And if we start pushing away again, then maybe we go back to that schematic, because obviously if we can hold this, then we just need to sort of, find a way out of the trading range, and then of course we would want to see probably that sort of thing before we were feeling more confident that a low of some significance was in place. So just moving over to Cameco, I was kind of bummed about this one, because I thought I could see something here that looked like a pretty good schematic, and we had the little spring, and then we had this solid push away, and then of course today it's just given up again. So that makes me think, oh, okay, well, the general idea that I was looking for hasn't happened, because obviously same thing. I'm just looking for the market to sort of make that bit of a consolidation sort of down here in this sort of area here, just around the sort of $40 mark, and I've been thinking that we're going to see sort of this before it's going to go on for a while before we take off on the next trend, because I think reiterate, the trend is over. The 2023 trend's over, but the overall trend is not over. We're just going to move into a period of consolidation now. So let's just have a look at this, because this bummed me out a bit. I thought this looked like a pretty good setup, but the setups fail. They're not a guarantee. So this is kind of good example of how you look at this and think, okay, well, you sort of sketch this out and think, okay, this looks pretty good. We had a test. There wasn't really a spring, but you don't necessarily have to have a spring. The point here is that once we sort of broke away from here, you'd want to see sort of more like that, okay, rather than it's come right back down. It's almost back testing the bottom of this again. So maybe the whole schematic has to be blown up and moved, and we don't have the spring, or what, maybe it just does that. I don't know. I mean, I'm just looking at what's going to happen here. I wouldn't be necessarily trying to trade this at the moment. I just think the whole space, I mean, look, if you're a long-term investor, I think it's okay in so much as I think there is going to be another leg to the rally. I would just say you've got to be mentally prepared to where a fair bit of time, like I said, the doldrums, right, where I just don't think much is going to happen in terms of the market going forward. I could be completely wrong, but that's just my view. So I'd look at this at the moment, and like I said, disappointing that we came back so far. I would have hoped that the market showed some more gumption, but it didn't. But just looking at this, well, okay, we'll put that aside. Well, what can you see? Well, I think this looks okay for now. We've had a little touch. We've sort of just closed on. I wouldn't have said that that's violated by any means. But can we channel this some way? Well, we've sort of busted through the top side, and that's why it's kind of, so we got a little bit of geometry there where we just sort of hit the midpoint of the extended channel. But you get the point. It's kind of, it really was setting up, and it's just kind of failed. So I think, for me, this is hands off, and I would just be kind of looking at this and just thinking, okay, well, we've really got to see what happens here, because this is, that's disappointing. That's a pretty good setup, to sort of, to have those areas. I mean, it's only hourly, right? You can't get too carried away with it, but to have these areas and to have this range set up so nicely, and to have a nice, good, strong break and then just fail back into it is, well, it's a failed breakout. So look, that's the other thing, right? A failed breakout, you got to be careful, because depending on how many people got long through, I don't know if they're all out now, but that if they're not, then there's the propensity for this to fall back through this, and then we're back reevaluating the whole state of the market. So what can you say? We're yet to reach back to the 50 off the top. So no panic. It's just wait and see. It's just a hands-off scenario for me. I'm not seeing this, right. This is just, don't touch. Just watch it. This is a sign. If you're going to trade this, maybe you're trading for the breakout, but you'd want to put your stops nice and tight. And I would hope that if you were trading this breakout, that you would have been stopped out in this move, that your risk management would have taken you out of that trade. Take a small loss, move on for the next one. But for me, hands off. So just quickly take a look at UEC, and look, it's a similar theme, right? I mean, we've kind of, the bounce back here was a bit better. We got within about 15 cents of getting halfway back, but the market then just really kind of gave up. So what I'd almost think now, okay, well, this is the start of of the trading range establishing itself, at least for this part. So, like I said, this could go on for a while. Maybe this is like automatic reaction, secondary test, spring, and then we move up, and then maybe we get to the top. Then we just go through a bit of a distribution event, and then all of a sudden we're back down, and then we're doing another sort of schematic, and then we're back up, and then eventually we'll do a distribution, which probably ends up being a reaccumulation. Then we go up, and then that's what gives us our big sideways pattern, that sort of thing. So I mean, it's very early to be able to tell if that's what's happening. I don't know. I'm looking at I can only deal with what's this telling me, and it's obviously at the moment it's not telling me much, which means to me steer clear from a short-term trading perspective. Now, the one thing that's kind of okay here is we do have, so this is disappointing too. You've got to be careful because we kind of had this sort of trend going on, higher, low, and then we just kind of failed there, just above the retracement. And even this might have been even a very small, go down to a 4-minute and you might be able to find a little distribution schematic here with the up thrust, and then down we go to markdown. But this is kind of I was trying to put in a little trend for us, and it's just kind of given up, right? And it's just and this is trading. It can get frustrating where things just look like they're lining up and then it all just falls apart. So look, not doom and gloom. Once again, it just means that we're back here. We're looking at these lows. We want these to hold, because if they don't, well, we're looking left again, right? We're looking left and we're thinking, okay, well, where's the next sort of point where I would think that the market might try to show a bit of gumption and try to hold, and you'd probably think it'd be somewhere down here, maybe tie into that. But we want this to hold. We don't want this to go down too much further, because it's going to start, it'll start asking questions, and people will start selling. And like I said, you look at those charts, they're like, oh man, I'm just going to bail out. I've been long UEC, I've been long uranium for like 2 years, and it's been great. I made a lot of money, but you know what? I'm bailing out of these now because I'm getting into Bitcoin, because it's going to 100 grand. Which, on a side note, I probably think it will. I just don't know what sort of timing it's going to take, but I think it's on its way. So just watch this, but I don't know. If you're a long-term investor, like I said, I still think that there's another leg to the rally, but I just think that we're not going anywhere for a while. Okay, I just think we're going to be trapped in a range. So we just watch this low, see how this develops. But right now, we don't have a lot to go off. Okay, other than we've just got a bit of a disappointing sort of failure out of this short-term trend. Let's just jump over here and look at the Sprott Physical Uranium Trust. And just for clarity, this is actually the Toronto one, not the one on the. I think it might trade on the NYSE. Nonetheless, they look the same. But look, this looks like more classic, right? You can just see the trading range, the choppy trading range that we've got coming in here. So when I kind of looked at this, I thought, oh, okay, well, can we make something out of this? Can we do a bit of read? Once again, I'm looking for an accumulation event here that pushes us back up to the top of this range before we have more like a distribution event, which push back down, and we're going to get this sideways action for some time before we break out and start charging through again. So like I said, I'm just looking for a range to build here until we get another small trend back up to the top of this. Then we start going through all this sort of chop again, and then we come back down and we establish the range like that, the same way that this is doing on a smaller scale. So I kind of just looked at this and thought, what do we got here? It looks like we've got a little something with a push down, and then it looks like we're getting a bit of a trending push away. So I just kind of looked at this and thought, a reaction, a test, back up to test the top of the range, a move down to just try to shake people out. And then it was a pretty failing like kind of move, right? Tiny bars, not a lot of price action, but we sort of just tipped below a couple of times here just to test it out. We're on hourly, remember, and then we've had a strong push away. Okay, we just got back up here, but we're just holding. Okay, and then when you look at this move, where do we hold? Right back down here to the 61.8, which is where you would hope the market holds. Now it needs to show some more gumption, of course. It needs to But you can almost see, like, if we get that, then all of a sudden we've got a bit of a trend going on here, and then what we want to see this come through, this hold, and then, you know, then that scenario that I was talking about where we can come back up to the top of the range is kind of playing out. So I don't know that's going to happen. Doing these schematics, these Wyckoff sort of schematics, it's the same idea as Elliott, right? People just go, you stupid lines, they don't mean anything. It's not that we're trying to make them mean something. It's just a system to organise the price action into something that you can sort of think or feel that is recognisable, that you can sort of think, okay, well, this kind of makes sense. This is kind of playing out this way. So I'm just going to stick little signposts on here, which, you know, they could be wrong and I could have to move them or get rid of them altogether. But just as I'm reading this is kind of just like I'm bookmarking the market as I go through it and going, okay, well, this kind of looks like it's going together. So I'm not trying to predict what's going to happen to an exact degree. It's just like, oh, well, this kind of looks like it's going that way. So I'll just put a couple of marks on here, and if they work, they work. If they don't, I'll just redraw them. Okay, but, you know, the same thing here, right? We're just getting this little, you know, the beginnings of this sort of uptrend, which is just kind of framing the market quite nicely. So we're down on an hourly, but this looks like potentially a schematic that looks like it's going to try to play out. So, you know, maybe this is the pre-runner, and this takes off a bit, and that sort of breaks the doldrums of the other stocks and allows them to start rallying and trending back up towards the top. So let's just keep an eye on this, because this is kind of interesting here. This is, like I said, you can see the range, but it's just looks like it's trying to now make a push. So we'll see what happens with this one next week, but this could just be a good example of the sort of things that we're looking out for. So just finish up here by just quickly brushing over these UXC uranium futures. So, you know, these have continued to dwindle, and now we're kind of back to $90. So I think that you can see it here, right? We've had this fabulous trend, and then what happened? We ran into a trading range at the top where the trend terminated into a trading range. It's a little bit hard to see, but you know, there might be a case here where there is a good schematic here of distribution, and then we're into the markdown phase. Now, how far could this go? So, and this is what I mean, like, this is with the last trading range, and then we've had this big break, and then we had just a very short trading range. But I'm just wondering, the same sort of thing. I mean, you would kind of think, just on a general basis, you would kind of think that the real danger here lies that the market could perform a 50% retracement from the low of the last trading range, which would take it back here. I mean, that's pretty unthinkable to most people. Especially Uber bulls, they're like, there's no way that could possibly happen because, you know, for a myriad of reasons, there's no way that could possibly happen. But anything can happen. You just can't. I don't think it's going to go down there, but I'm certainly not ruling it out. What I would more prefer to see is that somewhere very soon here. I mean, it's difficult to read a line chart. The structure's not great, but what I would very much prefer to see is that somewhere along the line that this starts to find its feet, you know, and then we start to have a smaller trading range here, and then we go back up here, and then you're repeating this kind of thing. And like I said, we bounce around. I just wonder if this, I mean, I don't know how long this is going to, maybe it goes on for the whole of 2024. Maybe it goes into 2025, or maybe it just goes like that. Okay. And then by, you know, in 3 months, the market's trading at, you know, $120, you know, a pound or whatever. So I don't know, but that's just how I'm reading it at the moment. So this is kind of my idea of what I'm thinking. So it's the same thing, right? It's just about now reading these trading ranges and seeing if we can make any sort of sense of them, and just sort of laying plans around, okay, well, if this is now coming into a trading range, it might be, you know, like the old Green Day song, sort of wake me up when September ends. You know, it just may not be, it may be quite some time, and that's going to prove a big challenge to me, trying to make these videos interesting every week, because there just might not be much going on. So anyway, I will do my best. Look, thanks for watching, and thanks for all the support that people have been showing me lately. Shout out to my mate Uranium Charts, one of the most loved / hated people in the space. Gave me a shout out. I appreciate that. Probably got some new formats, might be bringing in some new friends to do a bit of a collaboration in the next couple of weeks, so keep your eyes peeled for that. We'll see what happens. Look, just take it easy out there in the market. Don't do anything dumb. Just these are the times to survive rather than thrive. And so just keep your wits about you, and we'll see you next week. Thanks for watching. Bye for now.